of the Always Believe House. Oh, today we're going to find the zeros of a quadratic function by getting the square root. And it's going to be F-U-N, fun, fun, fun. Oh, so a magical whiteboard appears, and let's start rocking and rolling. Really quickly, we're going to write down the inverse functions here. The opposite of addition is subtraction. This is pretty basic stuff. The opposite of subtraction is addition. The opposite of multiplication is division. The opposite of division is multiplication. And hopefully I can spell right because the word's right on the other side. The opposite of a square root is squaring. And the opposite of squaring is a square root. Okay, when you solve an equation, you undo it by doing the opposite operation. So what does it mean to solve for a quadratic? You are finding the zeros. You're finding the number that outputs a zero. Write that down. Finding the number that outputs a zero. And remember, it's going to be x comma 0, right? And most quadratics have two zeros, especially the ones you deal with in Algebra 1. Now then, really quickly, at the top of your paper, let's write down let's write down this. Write down x squared minus 4 equals 0. X squared minus 4 equals 0. Notice we don't have an a term and we don't have a bx term. And I'm going to write this down. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If you take out the bx term, you could solve by square root. So on all of these problems today, when we solve by a square root, the bx term is going to be eliminated, okay? You'll just have the x squared term and the ax squared term and the c term, and that's it. That's because the parabola is not moved left or right, it's just moved up or down. Now then, let's graph x squared minus 4 equals 0. So I'm going to go to my calculator, hit delete, 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 get rid of that, and then hit tab to get another equation, and then I'm going to type in x squared minus 4. Then hit enter. And notice I get my parabola. Now then, let's trace to the zeros. So menu 5-1, right? Menu, trace, graph trace. Menu 5-1. Slow it up a little bit. I'm going to hit the right arrow button until I get to the right 0. And it's right there at 2, right? Now then, I'm going to type in -1 and swing around, hit enter. Then I'm going to type in the left arrow button. And then right there, it's at what? It's at -2 in it. So at -2 and +2, my parabola will cross the x-axis. Now then, let's go back to here. If I were to solve this, I would move the 4 across, x squared equal 4. Then the opposite of that second power is the square root. And then I would get x equal, now then right here, this is where y'all are messing up. The square root of 4 is 2 in it. But I don't need 1 0, I need 2 zeros, don't I? Not only does +2 work, but also a -2. So in front of the 2, I'm going to put a plus minus symbol. So my zeros are plus and minus 2, or you could say 2 and -2. Either one of those ways works, okay? Now then, let's keep going down here. X squared equal 100. The opposite of the second power is the square root. I would get x equals 10. But remember, it's not only going to cross on the positive 10, it's going to cross on the -10. So it's actually going to be a positive 10 and a -10. Why? Because 10 squared is equal to 100 and -10 squared is equal to 100. If you square both of those numbers, you get 100. And that gives you the 2 zeros. Okay, so really quickly, the answer to this would be just x equal and then put plus minus 10. That gives you the 0 on the left and the right. Since the vertex is on the y-axis somewhere, the 0 on the left will match up to the 0 on the right. The y-axis is actually the axis of symmetry. And if you fold it over, your zeros will match up. Okay, so this is a piece of cake. You want to just get the x squared term all by itself. This is super duper easy. So on this one, your square root, write that down. Now then, if you need to, you'll punch in the square root of 16 on your calculator. Hopefully you know that that's 4. So x equals 4, and remember, we put a plus and minus in front of it. That's all you got to do, people. Let's go to number 4. We're going to divide both sides by negative 6. We'll get x squared equal, and this is going to be 2 negatives makes a positive. This is going to be 81. Square root, and we would get x equal plus or minus 9. Now then, if you get a number that won't work, write it as a decimal to the 100th, okay? That's what it's going to be when you trace to it. I think these are all perfect squares. And lastly, I'm going to do number 7 for you. We're going to move the 1 across. We'll add 1 to both sides. We'll get x squared equals 64. Then you just square root. You get x equal, the square root of 64 is 8. And you put a plus minus in front of it, and that's your answer. Those are your 2 zeros, a positive 8 and a negative 8. Okay, and the rest of these, piece of cake, do it just the same way. Okay, now then when we get to number 10, this is tricky. Okay, notice we have the parentheses here. We're going to square root both sides right off the bat. So square root. I'm going to write down x minus 11. That minus 11 is moving the parabola to the right 11 in it. Okay? And then it's equal to plus or minus 11. The square root of 121 is not just positive 11, it's plus or minus 11 in it. Now then, I've got to move that 11 over, so I'm going to plus 11 to both sides. So x is going to equal to 11 plus 11 and 11 minus 11. Because I have to do the plus and the minus, don't it? The plus is right here, the minus is over here. Okay, so x is going to be either 22 and 11 and minus 11 is 0. Those are going to be my 2 zeros of that equation. Repeat the process on 11 and 12, okay? Okay, on number 13, what are the solutions to this? You're going to graph it, or let's just square root both sides because these are perfect squares. So we're going to get x minus 3 equals plus or minus 5. You're going to move over the 3. So you're going to get x equals 3 plus or minus 5. That means you're going to get 3 plus 5. And you're going to do 3 minus 5. So x equals this and that. And you're going to pick the right answer. I'm not going to do it for you, okay? Number 14, the solutions to this do the same thing. Square root. See if you can work through it, okay? Now then the last 2, okay? This is tough right here. If this were on the STAR test and you could not do the multiplication, you would graph all of these. If you were to graph this one and all of these, one of them is going to match up to the first one. That's going to be the right answer. I'm going to show you how to do this arithmetically, and it's not easy. Okay? So we're going to drop the negative 2, but we're going to write down x plus 1 twice. I had a couple of people in my class that could do this. Then we're going to drop the negative 5. So the negative 2 dropped, the negative 5 dropped, and then we wrote down x plus 1 twice. Okay? So we're going to drop the negative 2 again, and then we have to do the full. Okay, so first, outside, inside, last. X times x is x squared, and put it in parentheses. Each arch is going to be plus 1x, right? Plus 2x, and 1 times 1 is 1, minus 5. This is a lot of work, people. Easier just to graph them all. You're going to distribute the negative 2. You'll get negative 2x squared minus 4x minus 2 minus 5. Now then I'm going to group these two. Negative 2x squared minus 4x minus 7. Did I do that right? These are all wrong. This should be one of these. It's probably going to work out to be this one right here. Okay? It should be a negative 4x in the middle. 1x plus 1x is yes. So this should be a 4 right here. Okay? This graph and that graph won't match up unless you change it to a 4. Okay? The key on this one is they're probably beating in on the negative 7. That's going to be the y-intercept of both of them. But that middle term should be negative 4x. Okay? because, yeah, you get 2x in the middle of that. Now then on this one right here, we're going to switch it to vertex form. So you would graph this and find vertex. Okay, so trace to the vertex, that's going to be your h comma k, and then see which one matches up to the h and k. I'm going to let you do that on your own, okay? Have a blast finishing this up. If you need help, message your teacher. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Remember, you are amazing, you are created to do wonderful things, and you are awesome.